If you believe that Christians should drink alcohol,
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Sister Christian, oh, the time has come.
hi guys, I'm Vanessa and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Today's video I'm going to be talking about one of the most controversial topics amongst Christians, and that is whether or not Christians should drink alcohol. Now clearly there are two opposite camps. On one end, there are those that argue that Christians should be able to drink alcohol but in moderation. And another camp, there is the argument that Christians should not drink any alcohol at all because this is very harmful for your body and the Bible advises against it. However, there might be some confusion, as in the Bible there's a reference to wine being drunk in some areas and then in other areas it's totally forbidden. However, for this video I'm going to help to clear this up, and hopefully after this there will be no doubt in your mind whether or not Christians should drink alcohol and whether or not the Bible advises for it or against it. Now I'm going to be looking at my phone because I have some of the notes here, and I got this from The Christian and Alcohol by Doug Batchelor. I'm going to leave this in the description too, so if you want to read further you can go ahead and who are familiar with the scriptures, we know that this is the English version of the Bible. However, if you know about Bible history, you know that the Bible is actually translated to English from the Hebrew scriptures. In the Hebrew scriptures, there is a clear distinction between fermented wine and unfermented wine. Fermented wine is aged wine. This is the one that becomes alcohol. This is the one that can get you drunk. Unfermented wine is considered new wine, and this is basically grape juice. This is the one that cannot get you drunk. When the Hebrew scriptures were written, there is a clear distinction between fermented wine and unfermented wine. The word tirosh is used for unfermented wine, and yayin is generally used for fermented wine in the Hebrew scriptures. However, the translators of the Bible only refer to them as wine, and this is why you have some discrepancies in the Bible where in some areas it is clearly saying it is okay to drink wine. However, in some other areas there seems to be a deterrent from drinking wine.
So I yield to you and to your care for him. When I trust you, I don't need to understand.
So in the Hebrew scriptures, before it was translated to English, it was clearly defined in some areas that fermented wine and unfermented wine. However, when they translated the Bible, they translated it all to wine. So that's where the misconception happens, because in some areas it will be saying you can drink wine, in other areas it's saying you cannot drink wine. People get confused there because when the translators of the Bible translated it, they did not go as far as to put it that this wine is the unfermented one and this one is a fermented one. That's why some areas it advise for it and against it. However, if you pay attention to the context of the scripture, it will be clear which wine it is talking about. And I know for some people who really want to drink wine, they look for any loophole to say that, you know, this is where the scripture says that you can drink wine. But if you look at the context clearly, it will show that which wine it's been referring to and which wine is the one that you should be avoiding. Anyways, to further clarify this, I'm going to be doing a little bit more reading. By simply understanding the context of the word in a passage, the appropriate meaning usually comes to the surface. So unless the passage says old or new wine, as in Luke 5:37 to 39, the context will often tell us what kind of grape juice is being described. Alright, one simple example occurs in Mark 2 verse 22. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins, or else new wine will burst the wineskins and the wine is spilled, and the wineskins are ruined. But new wine must be put into new wineskins. Obviously, new wine would be the fresh, unfermented kind. Additionally, the Old Testament in Isaiah 65 verse 8, we read, "As a new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, 'Do not destroy it, for a blessing is in it.'" That is in the new wine. It is clear in both these passages that the new wine is simply grape juice. Confusing versus clarified. Okay, the whole scripture is clearly adamantly against the consumption of alcohol, but human nature will look upon the textual ambiguity as a loophole to justify drinking alcohol. An example of this reasoning is in the wedding in Cana, where Jesus turned the water into wine. Those who support the intake of alcohol suggest this must be alcoholic wine. After all, it was a wedding, and every wedding has wine, right? But let's pause and consider the implications. There were 6 pots for Jesus to fill, and each of these would hold 20 to 30 gallons. That's up to 180 gallons of beverage. Are we to believe that Jesus made 180 gallons of a destructive drug? Enough to get every guest drunk and launch this new marriage with slurring lips and slaggering feet. Indeed, he would have been acting against his own words. If we approach this passage relying on the whole scripture, we must surely come to the conclusion that Jesus made unfermented wine, and the governor of the feast complimented the groom on the pure quality. There are additional passages of the scripture that at first glance may lead a person to think that drinking a little fermented wine in moderation might be biblically condoned. In the next few sections, we will address some of the verses that were sometimes constructed to condone fermented wine, when in fact they do nothing of that sort. Alright, so what is alcohol? Let's begin with a definition. There are many forms of this compound called alcohol. However, there is no mistaking that all of them are classified as poisons, toxins to the human body. The alcohol found in beverages such as beer, wine, and brandy is ethanol, which is a clear, highly flammable liquid that has a burning taste and a characteristic odor. What happens when you consume this type of alcohol? Well, death usually occurs if the consumption of ethanol is above 5%. But even for those who use this sparingly, immediate behavioral changes, impairment of vision, and unconsciousness can occur at lower concentrations. That's interesting, isn't it? That's exactly the same effect that other illicit drugs have, such as heroin and marijuana. Tests showed that after drinking 3 bottles of beer, there is an average of 13% net memory loss. After taking only small quantities of alcohol, trained typists are tested and their errors increase by 40%. Only 1 ounce of alcohol increases the time required to make a decision by nearly 10%. It hinders muscular reaction by 17%. It increases error due to lack of attention by 35%. So, with all that, is it biblically permissible for a Christian to drink alcohol? If so, how much? Anyways guys, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you learned something. I know I was just mainly reading, but I know a lot of persons don't like to read. You prefer the information being presented to you, so that's why I took this opportunity to present this information to you. Hopefully you learned something. If you want to continue reading more, I'll leave the link in the description below, so go ahead and check that out and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Christians should drink alcohol? And do you think this explanation provides you with enough evidence to believe that in fact Christians should not be drinking alcohol? Let me know your thoughts in this. Anyways guys, you've made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you stopping by, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.